Well, hello everyone, and thank you for joining us in this episode of the leadership series put on by Lakeshore Human Capital. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Mandy Quirwell. I'm the founder and managing partner of Lakeshore Human Capital. We are a retained executive search firm based here in Toronto. We recruit at the senior executive level for our clients across Canada and the US, across most industry verticals. Our guest today is Lou Clements. Lou has focused on executive career management for the past 20 years and created Clements United in 2010 to ensure that executives have the opportunity to work with experts who understand the issues and challenges faced at the executive level and do so with a high-touch, personalized approach. Lou has worked with more than 750 executives, helping guide and coach them through career transitions as well as other career decisions. Lou conducts Canadian research on career transition, and his findings have been featured in leading national publications and in his newsletters. Lou joined Miller Dallas in 2000, at that time Canada's career transition firm of choice for executives, after leading the consumer and trade efforts of De Beers in Canada for 7 years. In addition to having been a player coach in hockey, Lou has experience working within multinationals, in the public sector, in consulting firms, and within an entrepreneurial family enterprise. Lou has lived in the US, Spain, and England, and brings an open mind and approach to his clients. Lou obtained his MBA from the University of Bradford and an honors Bachelor of Commerce from Laurentian University. He is also a certified advertising practitioner. Welcome, Lou, and thank you for joining us today.
Well, thank you, Mandy. I must have written that intro.
Well,
or maybe my mother.
Sorry?
Maybe my mother wrote it.
Yeah. I was going to say, I hope I didn't miss anything.
No, gosh, it's other than I'm happily married, of course. I always say that.
Fantastic. That's the most important part. So listen, Lou, I'll just jump into our questions. We have about 9 or 10 questions, and we'll try to keep it within 15, 20 minutes here. But outplacement, similarly to executive search, which I never heard about until I got into the industry years ago. What exactly is outplacement, and what do you exactly do on a daily basis?
Okay, so outplacement or career transition is a service, and it's usually provided by an employer to a departing employee. Alrighty, the objective of the service is to provide, help and support to the individual, so that they can move forward, to a new opportunity. And so, I help my clients initially, absorb often the shock of the decision, which is that they're not going forward in that organization. So helping them to deal with that, absorb it, ensure they don't do anything that's not going to be helpful to them going forward, not getting out there and talking to a bunch of people, not saying anything disparaging about their former employer, simple things like that. But also helping them prepare to explain it to friends or explain it to family. Certainly when they're out talking to recruiters and search executives like yourself, being able to explain what happened is very important without showing any kind of malice or vitriol or disappointment. I usually get there by, a very sort of high-touch interactive model. It's based on doing some assessment work with them, taking them through a process that will help them to get to a point of being able to define what it is they want to do going forward and why someone should consider them for that kind of role. So developing the support as well. When you're interviewing someone, you're probing for their understanding of the subjects, for their ability to point out how they've been able to deliver. And I want to ensure my clients are ready to do that. Get them to a point where they've decided how they want to take themselves to market, so how they want to position themselves, and then assist them in that process. So going forward, encouraging them, admonishing them, challenging them. Yeah. And in my most recent research, it became very clear that when they're dealing with someone like myself in this role, executives want someone who will challenge their assumptions. 100% of the 130 people who responded said that. Similarly, someone who can encourage them is necessary. So a coach, someone who can deliver a difficult message. So once again, these are executives. We're big boys and girls. I need to hear the truth, and can admonish them as necessary. So encourage them to get going, but also sometimes they need more than encouragement. They need to be told.
Yeah.
So that's sort of outplacement of career transition
Okay. Interesting.
in under 90 seconds or so.
Right. And you had a corporate career, and then
I
you
did.
got into outplacement. Was it with Miller Dallas? Was the first
Yes,
firm?
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
How did you get into this line of business, and why?
So I grew up in Sudbury, Ontario. My dad was a minor league hockey player and retired at the age of 35. And what he had at that point was four children and a wife and a mortgage, because his father died when he was young. He didn't have a chance to pursue education. So he worked in a variety of roles. And he was one of those fellows who could always find something new and different to do and would reinvent himself. What I didn't understand was why some of my friends' fathers, who were also minor league players, couldn't get on with their lives. They ended up at the end of the bar talking about the goal they scored 15 years ago. And my father was very keen on that not being the way to live. You have to push yourself. So we had conversations about people, why don't they help hockey players? So from an early age, I was kind of interested in the journey that we're on. And then at 16, I stumbled upon Hermann Hesse, the Austrian-German writer who brought Eastern philosophy to the West. And in the book Damien, I'm paraphrasing, but the most difficult journey that we're going to entertain is the one which leads to who we are. And I thought, oh my God, that's what life's about. So I've kind of led my life along those lines in terms of, it being a journey, and the opportunity to work with people and share a little part of their journey was just so appealing that when I saw this ad from Miller Dallas, I said, there it is. That's the job. That's what I want to do.
Yeah.
And I fooled them and they hired me.
And you spent what, about a decade with them?
Yes, that's right. Yes. I was the last of the partner group out the door.
Right.
We had sold our business to a multinational, and unfortunately, we weren't a fit with the broader business, and
I remember
and
that.
eventually they closed us down. Yes, but it gave me an opportunity to start my own little business and do it the way I want to do.
Yeah, excellent. What what drives you personally, Lou? Like, what is it? Is it money, or is it something else that gets you out of bed every day and to do what you do with such passion?
Well, I wish it had been money. I wouldn't be working any longer because I'm old enough. Actually, when I went through the interview process in Miller Dallas, I actually went through all the testing that we used to put our clients through.
Right.
And what emanated from that was that I'm driven by interest and autonomy. Mm-hmm. So running my own little business, working with people, during a challenging time of their lives, where I'm interacting with people from a multitude of backgrounds at a personal level, but also professionally and industry-wise. So I could be working with a CFO from the arts sector one hour, and an hour later, the CEO of an industrial organization,
right,
and maybe a chief investment officer from a pension plan. So think about a day where you have that variety of interaction.
Yeah.
So for me, that interest and autonomy was top of mind. Unfortunately, status, power, and money were right at the bottom of my motivations. Right. So I'm actually in the right thing because I'm not making a lot of money, and I don't know that I got a lot of status, and I certainly don't have much power. But I got to tell you, I learn every day. I work with interesting, accomplished people. I'm able to have some fun and be of assistance. And I have a tagline on my email that says, I want to be the firm you'd recommend to your best friend. Right. And I asked that in the survey, and 130 out of the 130 respondents said they would. So I'm pretty happy about that.
Yeah.
Only 129 said they'd work with me again. So there's someone out there who said, no, they're fine.
Wonderful. The next is a two-part question, is just around leadership, Lou. And for you personally, having worked in the corporate sector and now in placement, what does leadership mean to you? And it's a broad question, broad general term, but what does it mean to you personally? Yeah, and I appreciate that you gave me some time to think about this one, because I did give it some thought, and I sort of ended up at this place, which is, is it, to me, it's, can I provide the organization, or can I provide the individual the belief, in their ability to compete and provide the tools to do so? Right. So I guess that means, I don't know, inspiring, being clear in communication, ensuring the proper structure is there, having
manageable expectations, providing feedback. And I think it also requires, and the good leaders I've seen, they know when to step back and let their teams move forward, empower them and let them try. And sometimes it's not going to work, but let them try and then learn from that. It's an iterative process. I find in my business career as a career transition consultant, I'm working one-on-one with my clients. So there are times when I'm taking a leadership role, and then there's a time when I'm playing that supportive role. Right. So I think it applies in both broader corporate and smaller consulting organization interactions.
Interesting. Now you've worked with over, I think it was 750 executives.
Yes.
Over your outplacement career.
Yes.
What, other than the fact, when to step back, you mentioned earlier, executive, what are some of the other key leadership characteristics you would say is prominent amongst the, the upper tier or the top tier executives that you have dealt with?
Yes. So, intelligence, of course, is the starting point. They're all intelligent people. They have to be. Yeah. Resilience is important because, you have to be able to stand up to and overcome challenges. Yeah. Focus is important. Sometimes you got to be able to block things out and put your head down and, deal with the task at hand, the problem at hand, the pressure at hand. Strong communicators. Right? So good communication skills are important. I think that having some courage is important as well. If people are looking for leadership, they really do have to believe that the person in charge, one, knows what they're doing, two, has the ability to inspire, and three, has the courage to see things through. And also a willingness to stretch themselves. And if you think about it, most executives have done that. They've taken and made a leap. When you go from being a director to the vice president for the first time, that's a big leap. You haven't done it before. Yeah. It takes courage, it takes focus and resilience and intelligence and those things. So it's a bit of an iterative process. I think the good executives are very clear about setting goals for their teams and empowering the teams to go ahead, measuring the progress, providing feedback. I think those are important. And then I think finally, the willingness to admit mistakes. Yeah. I think, anyone who's in a leadership role who hasn't made a mistake is either in denial or it's coming. Yeah. That's a good point.
I over my career, and I've been in recruiting for 20 years, Lou, and I've worked with or met with and dealt with a number of outplacement consultants. And you're probably the only one that has actually proactively reached out to me with individuals you're working with, and making the introduction and helping me, with some of my searches. I would say, how do you work best with executive search firms, and how should executive search firms work with you? That it's a two-way street in terms of adding value to each other.
Yeah. Well, I think it starts with the fact that I'm a pure play in career transition. So many of the firms that compete with me for transition work also have search arms or organizational development arms. Yeah. So I'm not competing with you, nor am I competing with any of the other search firms. So I think that makes it easier for us to have relationships. And it's something I'm very, clear about as well. I'm not there to take your place. So from my perspective, I've made an effort to get out and meet. When I met you, you didn't have any gray hair and I had hair. So, it's been a while. I think it's important that I get out and meet people. I want them to consider me a resource. So there are occasions every single year where I'm introduced into a search by someone like yourself who said, Lou, we're looking for a CFO. Here are the characteristics, where I've been able to introduce people into processes who've actually ended up winning the jobs. Yeah. So it's worked really well for my clients. And that's the primary reason I do it, is I want, whenever possible, to assist my clients with their networking. Now, I don't reach out on behalf of every client, every recruiter I know, because you'd all get very tired of me in a hurry. Yeah. But when people are in a situation where they're struggling or whatever, then I do try to help. Yeah. Now, on the other side of it, search executives refer people to me as well. So people like yourself have been sources of business for me. Right. And I know I'm a trusted pair of hands. I don't compete with you. So it's not like I'm going to take you and develop a relationship with you as a transition person and then hand you over into the OD team or their search firm and change alliances and allegiances. So,
Yeah.
I want to be someone there that you can refer people to and are going to be well taken care of.
Right.
Because the first call is usually not to the outplacement consultant. The first call is usually to the recruiter who placed them in that role.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Right.
in that case, Lou, if I have an executive that either I've placed or I know very well that's in transition, in those cases where I refer that individual to you, is the executive at that point paying your whatever fee you charge, or is it, how does that work?
Well, it depends. I mean, sometimes the, let's call them sponsoring organization, the person who's let the person go, makes outplacement available to the former employee.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't have a national service, so I'm not on a lot of big company lists for national vendors. However, I do work with major Canadian organizations who have a national footprint, who have head offices in Toronto, and get employees and former executives in that fashion.
Yeah.
I do have clients who do seek out my services on their own and pay themselves as well.
Okay. That's helpful. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So, in Canada, unfortunately, we've surpassed the 1-year anniversary of COVID, and, we're still stuck in the pandemic. Hopefully, there's a glimmer of hope out there with the vaccine, and hopefully return to some form of normalcy over the next, several months or so. Obviously, the executive search business, no secret, has been hit pretty hard adversely over the past year. And, how's your business fared over the last 12, 14 months?
Well, I think I've been very fortunate. My revenues are up, and I continue to get strong referrals. Mm-hmm. So I have no complaints from that perspective. I think what it's done, it's validated the model that I use, Mandy. So I use a one-on-one high-touch model. And I did research in 2016 asking people, so, in terms of the service, how would you like it delivered? Would you like a one-on-one? Would you like it in a group meeting? Mm-hmm. Or would you like it in a webinar group meeting? And 96% said one-on-one. So in fact, I think my offering is a much stronger offering under these circumstances of the pandemic, because I do spend time one-on-one with people. And that's how I built my model. I mean, I'm not the most profitable outplacement firm, but that's not what I'm here for. I'm here to be the best, and I'm here to make sure that people get the proper service. So on some people I make money, some people I don't make very much money, but that's okay. I'm not reporting into someone who's saying your KPIs say X.
Yeah, that's right.
I've been in that situation. I know what that world is about.
Yeah.
And if I'm working with a service provider, I'd prefer not to work with someone who's got a head office somewhere else who's looking at numbers solely.
Yeah.
So I've been very fortunate. And like I said, I've had strong referrals the entire time. And, 130 out of 130 said they would recommend me to their best friend. And, it's the case. In fact, right now I'm working with someone whose brother-in-law recommended him to me, which is kind of cute. I've worked with brothers. I've worked with 6 couples, at different points where, and think about it. If your spouse recommends me to their spouse, that's a pretty significant recommendation, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's your life.
Yeah.
Your lives together.
Yeah.
So I feel very, very fortunate, and I can do it from home. I do have some nice expensive office space downtown that I don't use.
That is sitting empty,
It's sitting empty, yes, exactly. But it's all worked out. I've been very fortunate.
Yeah. So, the vast majority, if not all the people you work with, are executives in transition. But, obviously those people were employed at some point and they're going to get employed again. If you were able to advise senior executives who are currently working, and what tips would you give them, if any?
Okay, I think that taking calls from recruiters is a good idea. Mm-hmm. Okay, because you won't believe the number of clients I meet who, when we get discussing their familiarity with search firms, say, well, I never take those calls. I haven't taken a call from anyone in years. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, you know what? Well, you're going to be in that situation now, reaching out to them. don't be shy, don't be, you're still going to have to do it. But what I would advise people to do is take the calls, not necessarily because you're looking to make a change, but often you may phone someone who's happy and they're happy, but you're looking for sources of candidates. You're asking them for recommendations. So you might be looking for some insight into an organization they were once part of because you're trying to understand the culture. It doesn't take a person very much time to help a recruiter from that perspective. So that's one thing I would recommend. The second thing, and I'm basing these on experience I've had with this large client population I've worked with, is you want to have some kind of a profile in your industry or in industry period, not just your industry. So whether it's through, I don't know, providing leadership through thinking, through thought leadership, like writing or research or presenting, like getting out there and being involved. Some people do a very good job of being involved in industry associations, not-for-profits. So, having some kind of a profile outside the walls of your business, because in your business, when you're the CEO, you reign. I mean, that's yours, so to speak. But once you lose that, you're going to be very dependent on other people for help. And that's something that I've also researched. I mean, people do want to help. And sometimes I'm working with people who have never required help. Everything's gone well the entire time. And the idea of asking for help is something they need help with. So
I totally agree with you, Lou. It is whenever I talk to executives, I do a search, and who are going to be my first 15, 20 phone calls on a search is going to be the people who I'm comfortable with, the ones who have taken my calls in the past, and the ones who have helped me in the past. And anyone can do research with LinkedIn and social media and all that. You can find these people, but it's those calls. And most often than not, if I look at the searches I've worked on over the past year, most of the people I've placed are individuals I have relationships with that, I know them, I like them, and I can vouch for them to my clients to say, I've known this person for 4, 5, 10 years, whatever. They're a good person. Like they're good at what they do. And I know as best to my ability, there's no skeletons in the closet with them.
And in fact, when I'm calling someone like yourself, when you share a profile with me and I call you about someone, it's coming from that same place. I've worked intimately with this person. I've got a sense of them. I think I understand what you're looking for. I'm going to put this person in touch with you, not this person over here, because that one doesn't have that immediate set of whatever, or that magic mix, but this one does. So yes, I get that completely.
Wonderful. Excellent. So last question, Lou, this has been very helpful. Thank you. Is, wouldn't mind getting to know you a little bit further is, you run your own business, similar to myself. I run my own business. I got my own habits, rituals, all that type of stuff that, what keeps me motivated and driven and performing. What's important to you outside of work, and, what gives you some balance in life, and more specifically, are there any specific rituals, personal habits, or hobbies that keep you operating at a high level?
Yeah, well, in the spirit of Bob Newhart, I try not to drink before noon. That's a start. That's a starting point. I think outside of work, I mean, there's the basic family and friendships. They are very important to me. A number of my friends I've had for 45 years. I mean, this is part of who I am. I'm a learner. I like to learn. So right now I'm making use of Duolingo and Preply to learn Greek, and I've been doing that for the past year and a half. My wife's family lives there. I try to do different things. I'm a big fan of stand-up comedy. And my wife and I attend stand-up comedy shows, and I tried it myself a couple of years ago. One and done. Maybe not. I try to stay in shape. I have an indoor bike that I've had for 2 bikes over 35 years. And I love the opportunity to get out and play hockey with a group of fellows I've played with for 35 years, because the dressing room is so much fun. Looking at those naked bodies, no, but the dressing room is a lot of fun. So I try to take care of myself, and I keep in touch with people, which gives me a lot of energy as well. I love picking up the phone, and I'll call someone who was a client 10 years ago and, get caught up and find out how their children are doing, or And yeah, so yeah, I feel very blessed. I'm very lucky.
Yeah.
I've been married 36 years, and we have a couple of grown adult daughters who are on their way. So it's very good. And I finally come to understand that my wife is wiser and smarter than I am. So life is much easier.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, Lou, thank you so much for doing this. Really, really appreciate your time. And I'm sure, you know what, not just myself, I got a better understanding about placement and what you do, but also, you know, folks within my network. And, you know, when I post this, you know, individuals who are not familiar with your line of business, I think they'll just have a lot, you know, a lot more appreciation for it. So thank you.
That's great. Well, it's been a real pleasure, Mandeep. Thanks for inviting me to participate.
Yeah, my pleasure. Take care.